My husband's childhood best friend asked me for a favor, then humiliated me in front of her family. I'm done being the bigger person. I've been sitting on this for a few days, trying to decide if I'm just being dramatic or if I've been letting too much slide for too long. So, I, 30F, have been happily married for a few years now. My husband, 31M, is honestly a gem, kind, patient, hilarious, loyal. Basically everything you'd want. Which, after having an ex cheat on me with his best friend, is kind of a big deal. That relationship wrecked me for a while, but I worked hard not to drag the wreckage into something new. And my husband? And thankfully, my husband's never given me a single reason to question him. Until now? Maybe? I do not know. My husband and I have a great relationship, and we're pretty social and often hang out with each other's friends. I get along with almost all of his group, and they've honestly made me feel welcome, except for her. His childhood best friend. Let's call her Claire. Claire has always been cold to me. Not outright rude, just subtle enough to make me feel crazy for noticing. You know that kind of vibe? Every time we've been in the same room, she's managed to talk around me, not to me. I tried. I really did. I've smiled. Made conversation. Been nothing but warm, even when she's given me nothing to work with. She doesn't show up to group hangouts. But she'll invite him over. And he always tells me, to his credit. He never goes without mentioning it, and he's never weird or secretive about her. But it still rubs me the wrong way. I've tried being friendly, I've tried small talk, hell. I invited her to our birthdays, barbecues, engagement dinner, she bailed on all. She skipped our wedding too. And she only ever seems to reach out to him, usually when she's just been dumped and needs to talk. When I've brought it up, my husband says I'm overthinking it. That Claire is just a little odd socially. Maybe she is. Then, a few weeks ago, out of nowhere, she messaged me. She asked if I'd model for her project. Totally unexpected. And I was caught off guard enough to say yes. Part of me thought, maybe this is her trying to connect. Maybe this was her olive branch. I even felt a little hopeful. God, I was naive. So I agreed. My husband offered to come with me since he hadn't seen her in a while and thought it'd be fun to catch up after. When we got there, her family was also involved. And from the second I walked in, it was like stepping into some passive-aggressive Twilight Zone. Her mom and sister kept calling my husband our son-in-law. I laugh, awkwardly. Think I must have misheard. It only got worse. During the shoot, came more of the snarky comments. Jokes about the one that got away and some bonds never fade. Her mom, at one point, literally said, we always thought Claire would end up with him. But life has its detours, I guess. Claire always imagined walking down the aisle with him. And then, it's sweet of her to fill in, though. Oh come on. I wish I was exaggerating. And Claire? Just kept snapping pictures. Smiling. Saying nothing. No, hey, cut it out, no awkward laugh, no redirect. Nothing. My husband? Clearly uncomfortable. I watched him fidget through the whole thing, clear his throat a few times. He tried to change the subject or came nearby me during the shooting. He didn't say much either. Just went kind of quiet. I stuck it out for an hour. Let her take her photos. Smiled, posed, whatever. But the whole time I felt like I was part of a social experiment, and everyone else was in on the joke but me. When we got in the car, he was silent for a while. Then finally said, sorry about all. That was weird, right? And honestly, I didn't even know what to say. Because yeah, it was weird. It was borderline disrespectful. And the fact that he was there, saw all of it, clearly felt it too, and still didn't step in or pull the plug. It makes me feel kind of alone in this. I'm just tired. Tired of pretending this woman is harmless or just awkward. She knows exactly what she's doing. Two don't want to start a huge fight. But I'm at the point where I don't want her in our lives. Not as a friend. Not as a ghost in the corner of our marriage. No more bending over backwards to be the cool wife. I'm not interested in earning points with someone who clearly doesn't want me around. Anyway, thanks for letting me scream into the void for a minute. I really needed to get this out. Edit. Sorry guys, English is not my first, or even second, language. Sometimes it is harder to get my points/feelings across. Just to clarify a few things people were asking about, Claire is actually a photography major, and this shoot was part of her final project. I'm not a professional model or anything, but I've done some hobby modeling here and there, so when she asked if I'd help out, I thought it was a casual favor. Why at her house? She comes from a wealthy family and has a fully set up photo studio in their house, which is why the shoot happened there instead of at a regular studio. I honestly thought it'd just be her and the camera, not a full audience with drinks and commentary. Additional background, I grew up in a pretty emotionally abusive household, so I think I've gotten too used to passive-aggressive comments and just sort of freeze up. Maybe that's why I didn't react more in the moment, but yeah, it definitely hit harder after the fact. I will update you as soon as possible. Thank you for all your comments, smiley face. Relevant comments. Commenter, borderline disrespectful? I'd hate to see what you think is actually disrespectful. OP. Wow, reading your comment and honestly so many others has really helped me see just how not okay that whole situation was. Think I was so used to brushing off this kind of behavior that I didn't even realize how deeply disrespected I was. I grew up in an emotionally abusive household where snide comments and passive aggression were just part of the background noise. So when someone pulls that kind of crap now, I think a part of me automatically minimizes it like, oh, I've heard worse, but reading all your reactions kind of snapped me out of that. And yeah, it hurts that my husband didn't shut it down. I've been trying to rationalize it in my head like maybe he didn't want to escalate things because it felt like a trap. Or that he is not used to being in these kind of situations. None of that excuses it, though. Not even a little. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow. Really talk. Not brush it off, not laugh it away. Just lay it all out. Because at this point, I need to know where he stands. Thanks for the reality check. I needed it more than I realized. Commenter, gotta be honest. The whole modeling session photography stuff sounds 100% unbelievable. That doesn't even make sense, at all. Are you a model? Is she a photographer? Why a photo shoot in their home? Why all the family members there? That's not how photo shoots work, really. OP, yeah, honestly, I get why it sounds off. I probably would have side-eyed the whole thing too if I wasn't living it in real time. So no, I'm not a professional model. She just needed someone for a thesis project, and I've done a little hobby modeling here and there, so I figured it was casual enough to help out. I guess she didn't want to go through the trouble of hiring someone last min. As for the location, Claire comes from money. Like, money. They'd converted part of their house into a kind of makeshift studio for her to work in. Lighting, backdrops, the whole deal. So that's where we did it, which I didn't think was too weird, until I got there and her whole family was hanging around like it was dinner theater. Drinking wine, making snide comments, just watching. It was honestly awkward as hell. I definitely wasn't expecting that. I thought it'd just be her and a camera, not a whole audience and running commentary. Update, a quick recap for those who missed the original. My husband's childhood best friend, Claire, has never liked me. She skipped all invitations, but invites my husband alone, avoids me in person, and still found little ways to insert herself into his life. The final straw? She asked me to model for her final photography project. I showed up thinking maybe it was a fresh start. Nope. Instead, I got publicly mocked by her family, who joked out loud that she should have been the one marrying my husband. First off, holy crap. I did not expect that post to blow up like it did. Thank you to everyone who commented, messaged, or just made me feel like I wasn't losing my mind. So many of you asked for an update. And here it is. For those wondering, no, they never dated. He had a high school crush on her over a decade ago. That's ancient history. No, I don't think he's ever cheated, emotionally or physically. He's always very open and honest. We have each other's passwords. They barely see each other anymore in person, maybe once every few months. We live about 2 hours away, okay. So here's the update. Funny enough, I didn't even get the chance to sit down and talk to my husband before something else happened. I just can't believe my life at the moment. Anyway, I was still trying to process what happened and sort through my anger towards Claire, and honestly, toward my husband too. That's when I got a message from my sister-in-law, we'll call her Madeline. I'm really close with Madeline. She's also part of the wider social circle that Claire floats around in. They're friendly but not close. She sent me a screen recording from Claire's close friend story with a simple, WTF. It was a clip of me posing during the shoot, no music. But in the background, you can clearly hear Claire's sister say, Claire should have been the one to marry him. I lost it. I waited until my husband got home from work, sat him down, and showed him the video. He watched it once, then again. His whole face changed, he finally looked pissed. I could not help but think why didn't he have the same reaction there? So I laid it all out. I told him everything. Every snide comment, every time Claire made me feel small. How I'd always tried to be civil. How I never asked him to choose between us. But I was done being polite while someone consistently disrespected me. I told him, if this doesn't bother you enough to act, we've got a bigger problem. I'm not going to be in a marriage where I have to beg to be defended. I need a partner who stands up for me. And if that's not you, then I need to rethink this. He didn't argue. Didn't get defensive, and I know he feels sorry. Then I showed him the Reddit post. He tried to read every comment. Some of them made him tear up. When he finished, he looked at me and said that he feels like the worst husband. He let this happen right in front of him. He is so sorry. And asked me, what do you need from me now? I told him straight up, this isn't just about her anymore. It's about whether or not you're willing to protect this marriage. But I'm not going to feel like I'm second place in my own relationship. So it's either me or her. So we called Claire. She picked up all cheerful, acting like nothing had happened. We brought up the video. She immediately got defensive. Oh come on, it was just a joke. Are you really mad over that, seriously? And that's when he stepped in. This isn't just about the video. It's the constant disrespect toward my wife. I didn't say anything before because I didn't want to lose your friendship, and I convinced myself you didn't mean it. But what happened at that shoot? That was disgusting. My wife came to support you and your family treated her like a joke. I didn't speak up then and I'm ashamed of that. But that ends now. I don't even know why I held on to this friendship for so long. If you can't respect my wife, you don't respect me. She laughed, literally laughed. Wow, you're really cutting me off over that girl? OMG, I was ready to fight. But husband calmed me down, said to Claire, if choosing between you and my wife ever felt like a hard decision, I wouldn't deserve her. We're not kids anymore, you need to grow up. I simply do not want to be your friend anymore. I have nothing else to say. Telling you he can be a gem sometimes, but yeah, we blocked her and her entire family. Since then, he's been checking in with me. Not trying to fix things. Just showing up. Listening, understanding. He finally sees what I've been dealing with. We've still got some healing to do. But now I know where he stands. And that changes everything for me. To everyone who commented last time, thank you. Seriously. You helped me feel like I wasn't crazy. And maybe even more importantly, you helped him finally see it too. Alright, moving on to the next story. Brace yourself. Title, My 22F boyfriend, 22M, keeps letting his friend, 24M, come on our dates. Okay, how we got into this predicament in the first place is that my boyfriend just really likes his friend, Liam, he's like a brother to him, he saved his life once, etc. But he's on all our dates. I even brought one of my single friends on a date, so we could double, and Liam and her don't date, so that failed. I've honestly asked my BF why Liam is on our dates, and he says that Liam is lonely, has nobody else, and he has no siblings or girlfriend. But then my boyfriend kind of guilts me because, I know this sounds awful, Liam is the fucking package for guilt. His mom died when he was young, then his dad and him don't talk anymore, so Liam just doesn't have anyone else to talk to. I honestly think my boyfriend is guilt-tripping me, and I don't think I can do this relationship anymore. If nothing changes, I'm leaving. This has gone on for 3 months. Like, sure, I feel bad for Liam, but I don't really know him, and it's not my problem. It's also not just dates, movie nights, he's here. Going to the mall, he's there, where is he not? TLDR, my boyfriend keeps bringing his friend on our dates, and basically guilt trips me into not kicking his friend out. Also, I know this sounds made up, I still can't believe it, but it is very much real. And I basically just need validation that it's okay to break up with my boyfriend over this, the whole post. Relevant comments. Commenter, before ending it, you are fully validated on doing so based on your post. Have you put your foot down? Why don't you plan dates and tell him his friend is not invited, period. OP, I have, but as I said in the post, he always, guilt trips me into letting him come. Saying this out loud, kind of just made me realize he's manipulative. Commenter, it's okay to break up. You didn't sign up to be the third wheel in your own relationship. He can spend as much time with Liam as he wants as a single dude. Edit, I called my soon-to-be ex-boyfriend to meet up, and I'm gonna break up with him. I'm gonna tell him the exact reason honestly. I swear if Liam is there though, I'm not. Considering the possibility of not breaking up with him. It's not even just because of Liam, it's that he manipulates me into letting Liam come. Update, editor's note, changed the initial X to Xavier for easier reading. I broke up with my ex, I'm gonna call him Xavier. I went to where we agreed to meet up, and guess who he brought with him? You guessed it, Liam. I was very annoyed at this point. I told him I wanted to speak with him privately, and he brings fucking Liam. It's very uncomfortable to break up with someone in front of their best friend, but I was too pissed. I told him, I said I wanted to speak privately. He said, say it in front of Liam. Eventually I just get annoyed and say, that's it. I don't want Liam always here in our private life, on dates, everywhere. He basically said, remember what I told you about Liam's circumstance, blah blah blah. I said something like, I'm sorry, but I don't give a fuck about what Liam's going through right now. This is about me breaking up with you. Meanwhile Liam is just standing there, looking confused. I'll get back to this later. So we basically get into a fight in this park, and it gets to the point where I tell him that he manipulates me into not kicking Liam out of our dates, and about everything he told me Liam went through, like a brother to Xavier, saved Xavier's life, dead mom, dad absent, no siblings, friends, or girlfriend, and then Xavier looks like he got caught or something, and Liam gets angry saying like, "What did you tell her?" This is all really funny and really awful at the same time. It turns out, none of what Xavier told me was true. Liam has a fiancée, has a real brother and sister, and his mom isn't dead. So, anyway, definitely broke up with Xavier. Like, 40 minutes later, Liam DMs me basically saying that Xavier told Liam that I wasn't comfortable being alone with Xavier, and that he thought I wanted him to be on the dates. Sir, what? He said the reason why he agreed is because his fiancée is living in Europe to finish up her study abroad program, and he had nothing better to do. So Xavier just flat out is a liar. Glad I broke up with him, mad I got lied to, but oh well. This was honestly not a turn of events I was expecting, and I have to get it out somewhere. TLDR, Xavier is a liar, and turns out everything he told me about Liam was false just to play a game or something. Let's jump into the next Reddit story. Title: My 42F husband, 42M, has informed me he intends to go on a gaycation with his BIL, 35M, in Ibiza. How do I handle this? Hi there, I really wish I didn't have to make this post, but here goes. So me and my husband have been happily married for about 16 years, give or take. We both have stable careers, good family life, and are fairly fortunate despite the cost of living racking the UK right now. We have 2 boys, 15 and 10, and up until this Sunday, thought we had it pretty good. We argue sometimes of course, but never gotten too bad, and we have a pretty decent sex life with some exploration, but I won't get into that. Long and short is, on Sunday, just after I dropped our boys off at their friends, my husband asked me if we had the house alone and more importantly, do I have a minute? I said yes, and he sat me down, then got out this printed poster for some sort of orgy and started explaining to me the concept of a gaycation. How it's where straight men go to somewhere with sun, sand and booze and become gay for the duration of the trip, but that's fine because it doesn't actually count, because what happens on the gaycation stays on the gaycation. I was just completely silent and mortified, even more so when he said he was looking into booking a trip to Ibiza next year with his BIL, his sister's husband, to experience it for himself. When he finally let me speak, I just said, I need him to be clear with me, is he gay? Because if yes, that's okay, but we need to figure out what happens going forward. I didn't let myself get angry or upset, I was just stunned. He swore up and down how he's not gay and he's 100% attracted to women and of course still loves me and our boys. So I said, well, do you think you're bi maybe? And he got very defensive, saying how I need to drop the accusations and that this is the beauty of the gaycation, it allows straight men to experience gayness without actually being gay, and how it's like going to an aquarium? And again he was adamant he doesn't find men's bodies or genitalia exciting at all, but he needs to experience this apparently. I said, well, I'm really not comfortable because even if he was bi, this would be explicitly cheating on me, and he got angry and reiterated he's not, because that's the beauty of the gaycation, etc. I just had enough and left the room. I ignored him for the rest of the day, but we spoke at tea where I again asked him, why does he want to do this so bad if he's not gay? He said how he's interested in how gay men's live differ to straight men's and that. Unfortunately, once the gaycation begins, it's simply impossible for a man to resist and he must surrender himself mind, body and soul to the gaycation or be destroyed. I really can't put into words how surreal it was, because he was speaking so matter-of-factly, and he again insists this is a thing that straight men do all the time and how he's actually doing it a bit late. I just said to him if he has any love for me then he can't go ahead with this, and if he does, the marriage will be dead. We didn't speak anymore after that. Since then he's mentioned no more of it, but somehow, and this is what scares me a lot too, that decision genuinely seems to be tearing him up. He didn't go into work on Monday, and only went in half a day yesterday, because he told them he just felt too ill and he just looks distraught every time I see him. I really don't think he's wholly gay, though I can absolutely believe he's bi, but I'd rather we talked about that in a healthy way rather than this incredibly weird denialism around going on a sex holiday to Ibiza. Has anyone known straight guys to do this and come back and just go back to being straight? Like, surely that can't be a thing that happens. I'm so out of my depth here and I just don't know how to even initiate the conversation. For the record, I also haven't mentioned it to his sister yet. I don't know how I'd even break it to her. Thanks for any help, I just don't even want to think so. Being able to get this out there has helped even just a little bit. Edit, wow, this blew up. This has been incredibly sobering, and I think I've now confirmed what I already knew to be the case. The marriage is dead, one way or another. In a way I was in denial myself about that. I have contacted my SIL and she initially screamed at me, calling me a liar and even insinuated I was trying to steal her husband. She rang me back shortly after, apologized and admitted she was in deep shock. I have asked my parents to look after the boys and we're going to meet tomorrow to discuss this deeper. I have also texted my husband and told him he will need to make alternative accommodation arrangements but he will not be sleeping here tonight and a bag will be waiting for him. Not sure if the mods want to lock the post or not but I think I've got my answers. Thank you for all the kind words, especially Champion Flight who really gave me the good dose of reality I needed. P.S. I see a lot of people asking about the aquarium and at risk of doxing myself, there is a pretty famous aquarium in the UK called The Deep. At the very end you walk through a tunnel that goes underneath the main fish tank so it's quite immersive I suppose. My husband explained the aquarium thing in that it's a bit like that. You go there and you observe the fishes, you even get a bit up close but you never actually enter the water, get emotionally invested, or become a fish, gay, so it doesn't really count. It was a very bizarre analogy and I pointed out it still makes no sense and he just got more in a huff and how I just don't get it. And frankly I still don't. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, your husband isn't proposing a gaycation, he's proposing cheating on you with men while using magical thinking to pretend it doesn't count. The fact that he's planning this with his sister's husband makes it even more disturbing. His bizarre explanation about surrendering mind, body and soul isn't straight man curiosity, it's someone desperately trying to justify exploring his sexuality while keeping his heterosexual marriage. His depression about not being able to go isn't about missing a vacation, it's about being forced to confront his sexuality without his convenient "what happens in Ibiza stays in Ibiza" excuse. His meltdown over not going shows how desperately he wants to avoid facing this reality. OP, I read over this multiple times and I guess the worst part is I know you're completely right. OP should consider about the divorce. OP, I wanted to avoid the divorce option but I guess it's the only option, isn't it? Commenter 2, so this is just a thought, but I'm wondering if he was really planning on doing the gaycation or if that was just a cover to try to get you to agree to it. What if the real plan was to get with women while he's down there? OP, that, I hadn't really thought of that tbh. And now the thought terrifies me. From the way he was talking about men, the fact he had a poster for a gay orgy, I mean it's one hell of a bluff surely? Commenter 3, tell him you are gonna have a straightcation while he's gone and you are going to surrender mind, body and soul to other men. Honest to God, if my husband proposed this to me, I'd use his time away to pack up, move out and have divorce papers waiting for him. Update, so when I last posted, I'd contacted my husband to tell him he wouldn't be staying at home tonight and a bag would be waiting for him. As you can imagine we argued. Quite badly. I won't go into the specific details but no, I'm 100% on board with the fact at a minimum he's bi, might even be gay altogether. We've had arguments in the past but I've genuinely never seen him have such a childish tantrum before, screaming about how I just don't understand the gaycation, absolutely despise that phrase now, and insinuating I'm actually homophobic because I refuse to allow him to participate in this cultural exchange with the gay community. A lot of you said to ask him if it'd be acceptable if the roles were in reverse and I did say would it be acceptable if I went and slept with other guys during that week? Like fucking clockwork, he was very angry and offended, saying it's completely different because a gaycation means nothing and what happens on the gaycation, stays on the gaycation etc. so doesn't actually count. Whereas I'd just be straight up cheating. Well, I turned it around on him. No, but you see what happens in Manchester stays in Manchester. It doesn't mean anything, it doesn't count. It's like bird watching. And, I think it got through to him? He went all quiet and then started crying, admitting the thought of me sleeping with another man is destroying his heart but relationships need sacrifices, so agreed, while in tears, that when he goes on the gaycation, I'll get 1 week in Manchester to do whatever I want. He doesn't want me to, but that's fair in a twisted way, he supposed. I told him to get out of my house. Thankfully he left without a fight. I know it's incredibly petty but I also drained the joint bank account, legal in the UK, so he couldn't try to use it against me. About an hour later, I got rang up by his mum, my MIL, who just screamed and screamed at me about being a cheating WH*re, how I was horrible, what about the kids, etc. When I finally got my composure back I just said ask your son about the gaycation. Obviously at first she got angry but I said no, just ask him about the gaycation, he'll explain, but she called me a fucking joke and hung up. Later on, getting into the evening, got another phone call from her in floods of tears. She was very apologetic and I told her she doesn't need to be the one to apologize. She was so upset she put FIL on the phone who while he sounded calm, I could just sort of tell he was on the warpath. Again, very apologetic and said he overheard that phrase, asked my husband and husband initially said no it's nothing before explaining how it's a modern thing men to do, etc. and gave them the same spiel about how what happens on the gaycation, men cannot resist the gaycation, how a man must surrender to the gaycation etc. Phil just said they told him to leave or they'd call the police, don't care where he goes but he wasn't staying there. Husband tried to call me while I was on the phone but I just ignored it and Phil just said he was so sorry for me and they have my corner in this so, that's one thing. Told them to be there for their daughter because it sounds like BIL is involved, husband didn't tell them that, and Phil just said he had to go because he was so angry. Got a text from my husband after the phone call which was all weirdly rambly, saying about how I'd abused the gaycation to destroy his marriage and destroy his life and again insinuated I, and his parents, was homophobic for doing such a thing. Told him we'll talk when he grows up and blocked his number. I took a day off work myself to have the locks changed this morning so that's a £500 gone but whatever, at least I know he won't be coming back. I'm going to look into how to proceed with a divorce and then we'll move from there. Oh of course, there's also the brother-in-law. So I haven't yet met with SIL, she was in such a state and has taken this far worse than I have for reasons that'll be clear soon. We're going to maybe try tomorrow but we did talk over the phone and I eavesdropped on the conversation with her husband where she put her phone on speaker and I went on mute. Her husband got home earlier, she made him come home, told him there was an emergency, and just said to him, can you please explain what a gaycation is? She told me afterwards she was praying he'd look confused or just be like what? Or anything like that. But instead he just sat her down and explained that a gaycation is a new thing where straight men go to gay hotspots and participate in gay sex acts but it doesn't count because there's no investment and because what happens on the gaycation stays on the gaycation. He said it's like writing down angry thoughts and putting them in a drawer. You never have to see them again. Whole time, SIL is in tears as he just calmly bats off the same points my husband did about how it doesn't count and he even did the whole it's impossible to resist, you must surrender or be destroyed shit. I seriously think they must be speaking to a dominatrix or something, are there even male doms, because surely neither of them are that. Into this to actually make that up on their own? I really don't want to go into what was discussed, for her sake but it did become very apparent to me that the BIL is into sissy hypnoporn and at times conflated that with the concept of a gaycation. There was this utterly surreal moment where SIL is just trying to wrap her head around this while also in floods of tears and he explains, so genuinely, so matter-of-factly, that for most men, the gaycation is either a one-time or annual thing but some men go on the gaycation for years and others simply never return because they use hypnosis and mind control to be totally feminized into a state of permanent pseudo-gayness. She said in disbelief surely if you're taking it up the arse willingly because you want to, that makes you gay, and he said no, because that's the beauty of the gaycation, you can do all this gay stuff but you don't interact with the wider gay life experience. She asked him if the sissy stuff is what he wanted and he said, not on a long-term basis, and was adamant this is something all straight men do but she wouldn't get it because she's a woman. Then there were more insinuations of homophobia. Well that marriage is dead too I suppose. The whole ordeal ended when she said to him he has a choice to make and he said, no, he doesn't need to make this choice because the beauty of the gaycation is that it allows him to keep his marriage because it doesn't count. She said that's not the choice is whether he's leaving the house that night or she is. Only good thing he did was leave. Me and SIL spoke about it after that and I'm just, still utterly stunned. I understand she's gone to her parents for the support. What exactly did we do to have our lives destroyed in such an abrupt, bizarre, embarrassing way? Per some advice I'm going to look at devices and bank statements to see if I can find any definitive proof of cheating. After that, I suppose figure out how I tell the boys why their father won't be coming home. Edit, spoke to other SIL, my husband's family is older sister, him, younger sister / original SIL, and gave her a skimmed down version of it. She asked her husband and thankfully he was deeply confused but then mentioned about 2 years ago at a birthday party, he was approached by my husband and BIL about signing up to some online bootcamp around BDSM crossdressing. He assumed they were taking the piss out of him so told them to fuck off and never really thought of it again. The fact that this has been going on for that long is making me want to throw up. P.S. For the poster who said about divorce options, I'm actually going to look into adultery because plain and simple that's what this is. Top comments. Commenter 1, your husband and BIL are deep in a shared delusion that's destroyed 2 families. Their identical talking points about surrender and destruction prove this was coordinated. They're not just planning to cheat, they're already involved in some online community that's warped their thinking. The fact that they both instantly launched into the same script about gaycations shows this isn't spontaneous. You made the right call draining the account and changing the locks. Their attempts to flip this into accusations of homophobia show how desperately they're trying to avoid responsibility. The identical language, the bizarre aquarium and bird-watching analogies, the talk of surrender or be destroyed, they're in some online echo chamber that's completely divorced from reality. When your husband agreed to let you have a Manchester week while crying, he revealed the whole lie. He knows exactly what this is, cheating, he just wants permission to do it while denying you the same. The talk about hypnosis and permanent feminization reveals just how far this goes. Get a lawyer, protect your assets, and document everything. This will get worse before it gets better. Focus on protecting yourself and your children, because they're too far gone in their shared fantasy to see the destruction they're causing. What a pathetic hill for two men to die on. They destroyed their marriages, traumatized their families, and alienated their parents, all while insisting none of it counts because they made up special rules about it. They want to cheat without consequences, and they found an online community that validates this fantasy.